Everyone has some form of an addiction. Mine weighs over 2 tons. This year marks the 10-year anniversary of me owning a 1996 Chevy Caprice. It's been a adventure, to say the least. There's been a lot of love-hate aspects to this relationship. With this being year 10, I'm very happy that love prevailed. It is a well-integrated part of my life. And this is my story.
What drew you to the Caprice?
Well, it's kind of like finding it by accident. I don't know, I was probably like 13, 14 years old. You know, always knew I wanted a car, like I had to have a car when I was 16. And I wanted a car that like was a good time, like something to go have fun in all the time. And I liked rear-wheel drive. I liked the whole idea of it. Never had a rear-wheel drive car. I mean, up until that point, I don't think I've ever even rode in a rear-wheel drive car, really. I mean, it was all like pickup trucks and front-wheel drive cars. So I knew what I wanted, but I didn't know what I wanted. I was looking at Suburbans. I was looking at like 96 Grand Prix GTPs, you know, like cool cars. And then I saw the Impala SS for the first time, and I was like, what the hell is that car? I've never seen one before, and it caught my eye, and I don't know how, like, it catches your eye. It's a good-looking car. So I didn't know what it was. I had to find out what it was, because it was like, that was the car I wanted. So when I realized that the Impala and the Caprice are the same exact car, just rebadged, you know, I mean, there's clear differences, but I started looking for well-maintained Caprice. I looked for like 2 years, I think, classifieds every single day, and eBay, you know, within distance, you know, just constantly looking. I went to look at tons of these 9C1 Interceptors that were just beat. You know, they literally ripped everything out of them. Cage, lights, holes in the trunk, holes in the roof, carpets ripped up, terrible condition. So I didn't want that, you know, like I wanted a decent car. So then it narrowed my options down to the 4.3 liter, because that was the only way I'd get a Caprice that was in good shape, even though it didn't have a big engine. So my mind was set. All right, 4.3 Caprice, and it's going to get the big engine in it at some point, like without a doubt. So that's what was happening. So I finally found this one. Local, so I fell in love with it. I mean, low miles, it's like 82,000 miles on it when I bought it, and took it for that first test drive. And you know, now like by this time I've driven a couple of Caprices and Camaros. Like I was all over the place. I was like just looking for something, and I was getting desperate at some points. Like I need a car. Driving the Omni, you know, my first car, '89 Dodge Omni, 5-speed GLH. But this one was different. This test drive was different. This one I knew was going to come home with me. So I took it for a drive, and it was floaty, and it was underpowered, and it was a slug, and I loved it. I mean, it was perfect. So $3,700 is what it cost. Cashier's check, and I got it home, and I mean, completely stock, 4.3 liter, 265 V8, you know, open rear end, open diff still, everything about it, stock. It had pinstripes down it, that ugly door molding all the way around it. It was, you know, sitting much higher than this. It was my car, my first car that I bought, my own money, is the car that I wanted. And from there, I just started, you know, making it my own. Actually, the very first mod that I did to it was stereo system. I mean, 17. That is top of the list. So, kind of funny. The stock AC Delco deck in this car was actually really good. I mean, it wasn't bad at all. It put out plenty of power, had that speed compensated volume control, kind of cool. Cassette player, so you could, adapt anything you wanted, so that was always nice. But worst speakers I've ever seen in any car. They're so bad. Papered cones, foam, like just junk speakers, so bad. So terrible. So I think I put Pioneer door speakers in and 6x9s, and I think my first sub setup in the trunk was a pair of Insignia 12s and an Insignia amp, and those were short-lived because I was washing the car one day, like doing some detail work on like the lower part. I had the windows open. I know I had the windows open because I just did the interior, using the car stereo, listening to music. I look up and there's smoke coming around like the seams of my trunk lid. I pop the trunk and find my amp is just detonated. It's just smoking away in there. So that was the end of that Insignia amp. And then I smartened up. I went with a Profile 1000 watt California Series amp, and then I got some Alpine Type E's. So the first couple of mods, obviously when you're 17 years old, is Canon filter, cold air intake, and go from there. So that's what I did. Those are the first actual things I did in the car. After that, I think I ditched the Caprice grill for the Impala grill. The next big purchase were wheels and tires. You gotta get those 17s on there. It makes it look like a totally different car, and without question, completely different car makeover with just those 17s on there. And in my opinion, they are the only wheels that look good on this car. I mean, other wheels look alright, but these ones fit the car perfect. They are for this car. I eventually, not too long after owning the car, my first couple mods were stereo system, odds and ends, and then I finally got the heads up that there's an engine available. The guy that I worked with, his son was parting out. He parts out cars and sells them. That's where he makes a living, and he does really well. He came across a '96 Impala SS. It was totaled out, all smashed up in the rear end and down the passenger side, and the car had. I think the engine had about 83,000 miles on it, and at the time, my car would have had about 104 or 5,000 miles on it, just over 100,000. And I went out to his place, I checked out the car. He already had most of it gutted out, he even had the fuel tank out of it, so we poured gas directly into the car, right into the engine, jammed a screwdriver into the ignition, and cranked it over so he could show me that it is a working engine. And it didn't sound, the exhaust is screwed up, but here is the LT1 that I'm looking for, running right in front of my face, and he only was asking $700 for an LT1 that had 83,000 miles, complete with everything you need, computer, wire harness, all the stuff. So I said, absolutely, I'll take it and I'll make it work. I picked up the car, and it was just so different. Night and day between those two engines. From that point on, definitely I was hooked on my car. I no turning back after that. I said, that was like the biggest thing, is getting that engine. I had the transmission serviced due to some bad troubleshooting. I thought it was a transmission slipping. This was a while later after the engine swap. Anything that was worn out in it replaced. Took care of all the stuff in there, and upgraded the shift plate in it, and so it has harder shifts now. It's more confident feeling. It was just sloppy feeling. Did that. It had the Impala computer in it now, and from there I changed it to the 9C1 Interceptor computer, and I know at the time it made a big difference. I could tell a clear difference between one computer and the other on how it would drive. It seemed like it had better shift points. But then finally the Bilstein shocks, Got good Wilsteins on there. Help handle the weight of this beast. Really made a world of difference. Big brushless steering components. It moves really well for its weight. It's unbelievable. Much it can haul.
Yeah.
Especially if I put it on like a weight loss program. But I don't want to. I don't. It's not the way I'm going with the car. I like the sleeper idea. That's kind of what I like. So keeping it that. So another odd relationship with this car is my age compared to the demographic that normally, old fucks that drive this thing. So I'm usually people don't understand what my attraction is to it, and it's tough to describe. I don't know. I just love this car. I don't like the look of a stock Caprice is nice, just because I know what they're all about. But this car for me is just me. I just love this big car, and it's just something that most people my age, especially when I was in my teens, didn't have. Everyone always wanted Civics, there was always Civics and Eclipse. Eclipse was super popular in those cars, but like a 3000 GT, that was kind of a cool car that a lot of people wanted. Yeah, I don't know. And then there's me with the Caprice. Who the hell wants a Caprice? But my friends at the time never experienced anything like that because they either A, weren't into cars and they even realized that cars could move like that. Rear engine, the rear drive setup, 5.7 350 LT1. It's a totally different feeling compared to a 2.2 whatever, or a 1 point nothing, and you step on that gas at about 33 miles an hour, and it's punching, and it shifts down to first, and it torques that hood up, and just roars away, and it's something that's completely unique at that time. No one experienced it, they just loved it. And no matter how many people you fit in it, a trunk full of bricks, whatever you had in it, it was just always fun to drive around in. So I was always the driver, and I think it's because of the car. So this year, over the winter time, about a month ago or 2 months ago now, we did a lot of work, general repair stuff that needed to be done. And the car is in excellent mechanical condition at the moment. I mean, it's great. Working really well. So it's time for a new mod. And this summer is going to be a big one. I've been waiting for this for so long. I can't wait. The only thing that I haven't touched on this car really is the rear end. The new engine. Transmission's been worked on. Transmission's excellent. So lastly, it's the rear end. Current rear end is the stock open diff 273 gearing highway, just terrible one wheel peel rear end. And one way or another this summer I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to find the rear end out of an Impala SS or Roadmaster or whatever has the 8.5 inch rear end that I'm looking for. And with I think the Roadmaster, but definitely the Impala rear end, you get the disc brakes, which the only issue with that is the ABS system, but we'll figure that out. That's the next huge step for this car. Up it to 373 gearing with the posi, so it's going to be a world of difference. I can't wait. I mean, it moves really well for what it has right now, but it's tough getting it off the line as fast as I'd like to, because either you can't mash it like you want because you just sit there and spin, or if it does hook up, you can just feel how restrained the power is from getting to the road. So it's been a grievance of mine the entire time that I've owned the car, but it's been a love-hate thing for these 10 years now, and there's been a lot of times where I've thought about, what am I doing with this car? Why do I have this thing? During a lot of moves, from apartments to houses and this and that, it really started to feel like an anchor. It's holding me back as different opportunities presented themselves to me, and moving out of state, all kinds of plans came and went, and a lot of it is because, it sounds silly, but it's because I gotta have this car. I don't know. I always had this car. So when you think about it, from 10 years, a lot of stuff can happen in 10 years, and I've had this car through it all. And that really, I think, speaks for itself, and how much I really do enjoy owning this car, because no matter what happens, it's here with me still. So, a perfect day driving this car, and I felt this way back when, before I did anything to the car. All you have to do is drive something else for a while. Anything else. And then get into this car, turn that key over, and you're staring down that massive hood. See that little hood ornament at the end of it, kind of guiding the way, that Chevy emblem out front. The massive windshield, and you can just see everything, and I think the look of the car commands a lot of respect from people. I don't know why, no one hates on this car, and if they do, it's usually joking around, or they're just, don't know what they're talking about, or
uneducated.
Uneducated, yeah. Douchebag. So. But really, honestly, I haven't had anyone speak ill of this car.
What about influences with movies and seeing them in movies, like Fast and Furious?
Yeah, movies.
They kind of get a bad rap.
Yeah, the Caprice is the punching bag of the movies for sure. Totally. Between that and its cousin there, the Crown Victoria, pretty whooped on in movies. Yeah, they are. Scapegoat or something, I don't know what to call them, but if there's a Caprice in a movie, it's probably not going to see the end. See it through. So. We were saying about the movies and stuff. How many Caprices were wrecked in that movie? Just sacrificed and just destroyed. Worst drivers, too. Worst cop drivers. Early on in that movie, the first race scene in that movie was, who were they trying to catch in a Caprice? And being a Caprice owner, you can pick out all the flaws with it, and it's just so ridiculous. The guy stomps the brakes and spins the car, only the rear brakes work, they even do anything anyways. I don't know, you pick up on things, and in video games and everything, you see when you actually have an Impala or a Caprice as an option is always kind of fun to play with, and or even Crown Victoria's. Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2 on PS2 is one of the best racing games ever, hands down, and you can drive the Pursuit Crown Victoria, they're just fun cars. I have a very objective standpoint on cars. I try to be very objective and respect people's interests, whatever makes them happy, If it makes you happy, cool. There's always a reason why you're drawn to a car, and, you can't really hate people for it, even if it's not your preference. So, I don't know. There's just a lot of love for this car behind me.
First you both go out your way and the vibe is feeling strong, and what's small turn to a friendship turn to a bond, and that bond will never be broken, the love will never get lost. And when brotherhood come first, then the line will never be crossed. Established it on our own when that line had to be drawn, and that line is what we reach, so remember me when I'm gone. How can we not talk about family when family's all that we got? Everything I went through, you were standing there by my side, and now you gon' be with me for the last ride.
It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you